1 year ago, the city of Albuquerque signed an agreement with the U.S. Department of Justice after an investigation into a pattern of excessive force in APD. The agreement required APD to make changes, including how officers are trained. Our correspondent Gwyneth Dolan sat down this week with a representative from the police union and a civil rights organization to talk about what's happened in the past year.
Peter Simonson and Sean Willoughby, thank you so much for being with us today. Peter, it's been a year since the city of Albuquerque and the Department of Justice signed an agreement saying they would move forward on reforming a department that had come to national attention for a disproportionate number of police shootings. What has changed in the past year? What do you see?
Well, I think we've seen some incremental changes, some surface level changes that have sort of reached the community, but by and large, I think the community doesn't really know what's going on inside the department by way of reform. You know, early on, the department changed its policies around the use of standard issue weapons. We know that data recently has been released, I think in August, that showed that the number of SWAT deployments seems to be up, but by the same token, the number of officer-involved shootings as a result of those deployments is down. In fact, there hasn't been one, at least as of August. That's a good sign. You know, if you look at, for example, the recruiting materials that APD is using, they seem to have changed pretty significantly, and if you compare them to recruiting materials in just about any other department around the state, this department is now really emphasizing community policing, a commitment to serving the community, to respect, to integrity, to professionalism. Those are all very positive things. On the other hand, we also understand that the department has yet to pass a single policy revision. That's very concerning, and in fact, just this month, the department asked for an extension on 35 different deadlines that are part of the consent decree. Those are key deadlines concerning the use of force training, CIT training for officers. You know, this is the core of the reform process, and yet now we're seeing a delay in the implementation of those reforms. We're on a very tight timeline with this reform process. You know, unlike places like Pittsburgh or Los Angeles or Las Vegas, where it took nearly 7 to 9 years to complete the reform, we're on a 4-year timeline, and we're already we're almost a year into that timeline. So we've got to see some progress pretty quickly. And the fact that we haven't seen any policy revisions, I think, is very concerning.
Sean, what do you see and hear in the department? What are you seeing and hearing is different now from where we were a year ago?
Well, what's important to really take into consideration here is the reason why there was a delay in the timeline is, within my understanding, was that there was a delay in the monitor actually getting approved by the city council and actually coming to work. So like Peter was saying, I mean, there is so much going on. These timelines are crucial to stay on task to get this process through and reformed. But I've said it 1,000 times. This didn't happen overnight in the city of Albuquerque, and it's going to take all of those 4 years. We'll be lucky, I believe, if we're done in the 4 years. It's a very bureaucratic process. So the department can reform all of these policies of what they believe the intent or what the blueprint is, which is the settlement agreement, and they can create policies and vote in policies and change policies that are reflective of that. But then there's another process. Those policies now have to go to the monitoring team to ensure that as a member of the court, or the eyes and ears of the court, that they are reflective of the settlement agreement. And then that gets back and forth. We need this change. Can you add a "the" here? Is that where it's supposed to be? I mean, we got attorneys all over the place, and it's a very bureaucratic, slow-moving process. The bad thing for the officer is they don't know which way is up and which way is down. If you can consider, we've had the PERF report, 89 policy changes. We had the pre-DOJ coming into Albuquerque policy changes. We had, now we got the DOJ settlement agreement and the policy changes. 100% of our department is CIT trained. That curriculum's been stopped. So, what is going on, what officers are supposed to do at the very end of the day they're intimately confused over actually what's expected of them, because we haven't really seen any good, true policy changes. And then another aspect of policy changes, you can't expect 800 individuals to just read a policy and say, okay, now we're gonna, this is what it's gonna be.
A lot of stakeholders, and everybody wants to make sure they
gotta do it right.
So it slows it down. The city already received an extension on some of the early goals in the agreement. When do we expect that things will actually start to ramp up? Because they sort of have to, right? Peter, when do you think there's going to be a burst of movement?
Well, I imagine, in the coming months, I would imagine we would start to see quite a bit more movement. There are some very basic policies that need to get put into place before you can do some of the other pieces of compliance with the consent decree. The use of force policy, if that's not in place, that inhibits the ability to, I imagine, to follow through with use of force trainings and various procedures around use of force reporting. So, one would hope to see a burst of activity in the coming months. But again, the community has been largely shielded from what's taking place inside the department. We can gather information from various sources, just that are sort of superficial effects of changes inside the department, but very little has really come out about the concrete changes that have been implemented inside of the department. And one of our key concerns as ACLU and as our Coalition APD Forward put into our amicus brief when the first settlement agreement was entered was the fact that the reporting requirement on the department is only annual. We would have liked to have seen a quarterly reporting requirement so that the public would know much more about what's going on inside the department. But now we're left to guess until we reach that year completion. And I imagine, Dr. Ginger is supposed to release a report in November, but I would imagine that those deadline extensions probably include an extension on his reporting requirement.
Sean, 6 months from now or a year from now, if we're sitting around this table again and we're looking back on this year past, how will we know if the city's relationship with the force is better, if it's a better place to be an officer?
Well, I'll tell you what, in my personal opinion, I believe that the quiet majority of the city has a good relationship with APD. The days of having the manning and the resources to really connect with the community on a realistic day-to-day in and out ratio are gone because we just don't have the resources within the department to do it. That's a big facto of community policing. In 6 months from now, you're going to have naysayers complaining, and you're going to have other people saying, look at what we've done. At the end of the day, there's going to be certain aspects of the job policing that aren't going to change. You're always going to have use of force incidents. You're always going to have police officer involved shootings. You're always going to have these controversial things that come up that somebody can point a finger at in a negative light. But I can tell you right now, the Albuquerque Police Department is working diligently. The monitoring team is working diligently. We are working diligently. We all sit on different sides of the table and have our own interests. We're on behalf of the officers, and we're doing our best to try to get things done and stay on course to get this process done and out of Albuquerque within the allotted timeline. But, in my opinion, as a police officer, and it's not going to be shared with a lot of people, is the only person that is better off or safer in the city of Albuquerque because of this process is the criminal element of the city.
One of the things a lot of people have been talking about this week is a video that we've all seen, I'm sure, of a sheriff's deputy in South Carolina in a school tipping a girl out of her chair and dragging her out and handcuffing her in there. And it sort of has brought up this pattern that we've seen recently since Ferguson and here in Albuquerque too of videotaping people's encounters with the police. And FBI Director James Comey said twice this week that he thinks that violent crime rates might have risen in part because officers are so worried about being videotaped and made to look bad that they're engaging less with criminals. Peter, you've been a strong advocate of requiring the police department to wear lapel cameras to record all interactions with everyone that they talk to at work. Is it a concern to you that video or other videos might be hampering the police's ability to catch the bad guys?
No, frankly, I think the comments by the FBI director were irresponsible. I think they set us back. I think we're on a trajectory right now, nationally and locally, to try and create greater transparency in what officers are doing and how they're executing their jobs. And let's keep in mind that these video cameras serve both sides of any police encounter. There are just as many incidents out there where officers are vindicated when they're accused of some sort of wrongdoing in an encounter with a civilian.
That's a good point. Sean, the FBI director asked, in today's YouTube world, are officers reluctant to get out of their cars and do the work that controls violent crime? Is that familiar to you? Do you think officers are doing that?
It's a reality, Gwen. I'm telling you, it is a reality. It is happening in Albuquerque. It is happening right now. You are going to see police officers hesitate, and this hesitation is the matter of 1 second. 1 second, that hesitation can be the difference between me going home to my family and life and death.
Should the solution to that be people stop recording or police somehow change their patterns?
Absolutely not. Personally, I don't know a police officer that has a problem with being recorded. What police officers have a problem with is a group of individuals that have absolutely no idea what happened on this scenario. We don't know what happened in South Carolina. Did the teenager hit him? What actually happened? What were his actions within policy? Were they criminal? Every situation is different, but if you don't know the facts of the case, you can't really have afforded an opinion. What we are afraid of, and police officers are afraid of, is doing their job and being persecuted and criminally charged for doing it when they did nothing wrong. Force does not look pretty in any application. Force does not look pretty on video. It's not going to look pretty at home on your television. We are upset that the rule of the court of public opinion, they are ignorant to the laws regarding use of force, to policies and procedures, to the world of policing, are making opinions.
I hope when we come back a year from now and we review the last year that has passed, that the court of public opinion has shifted, that the movement has shifted, and people are coming closer together in moving forward. Thank you, gentlemen, both so much for being here.